Greetings, mortals, and welcome. Please present your tickets for validation. Thank you. Your existence has been acknowledged, and you have been granted access every Thursday and Friday. You will be accompanying your guides, Krista and Brandy, along with a world-renowned guest. They will be exploring an intriguing tendril of what humans refer to as reality each week, as they strive to advance you further down the path to the truths of your physical earth and what lies on the other side. Remember to please keep your hands and feet in the vehicle at all times, and do not exit until the craft has come to a complete stop.
You're on mute, Krista.
Why did yours go off mute? Mine didn't. I must have hit it or something.
No. Hey, it's Gremlins. It's Friday. It's Gremlins.
Long week too. Very, very long week. So
yes, absolutely long week.
Anyway, happy Friday, everybody. Hope everybody's had a good week. And how are you today?
I'm good. I worked a super long day today, and of course, I'm working all weekend. So I guess my week is just still not over.
Right.
I mean,
gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha. The way they have me working, it really doesn't end. It just continues.
Right. I hear you. I'm with you. On that. Yeah, it's just I'm ready just to get my weekend on, man.
Yeah, I know it.
I'm gonna spend some time Sunday with family, and that's about it.
Well, I'll be at work. I'll be thinking of you. Hope you're having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you were off yesterday while I was at work, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I get one day off, and then I have to work a bunch of days, and I get another day off and get a bunch of days. So I don't get 2 days in a row, and definitely not weekends. So
yeah.
Well, it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do.
That's right. You got to do what you got to do. I guess we can talk about a couple of things we got going on real quick. How about this one, Brandy?
Okay, this one is actually May 18th. This is at Ashmore Estates in Ashmore, Illinois. It's going to be a fantastic event. We're going to do a whole lot of stuff all in one day. We're going to start off in the early afternoon, possibly late morning. We're going to have speakers, and then that's going to go all day. And then that evening, we're going to have dinner for our guests. And then we're going to ghost hunt until 2 a.m. in the morning. So you can hop on over to Eventbrite, get your tickets. It's under Blondes and Booze. We have other events in there you can check out while you're there. But this one in particular is in May. We have great guests. We have Paul Anthony from Paranormal Among Us is going to be there. Josh Hurd he's the owner of Malvern Manor. We have Letitia Nunnelly, of course. Jessica Potter, the mermaid psychic medium, and her friend Rachel. Marie, those two together, I'm not sure what we're going to get. I just know it's going to be fun.
It is going to be a lot of fun. And, of course, Robin Terry will be there.
Right. I always forget about Robin. I mean, I'm like, he owns the place.
Right.
But it's really going to be awesome because he is going to speaking there and he's met everybody the who's who in the paranormal. He already knows them.
Yeah, they've been asked for.
Yeah. So he's really going to be interesting to listen to also. But I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a whole day event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. And then we've got that, and of course the Alabama Bigfoot Conference that everybody knows about. I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing about, but tickets are on sale at BamaBigfootConference.com, right?
Yes, and that is July or June 7th and 8th.
Yeah, yep. So that'll be a good time too. Anyway, you want to do our lineup, and let's just get on with this show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. On Mondays at 7 p.m. Central, it is Danielle Diva and the Diva Dimension. At 8 o'clock, it's Texas Front Porch with Tex and myself. Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central, we have Bigfoot Michigan Rob and Krista, who do their show Beyond BMR. On Wednesdays at 7 o'clock, it's Donnie Cho Says Stuff. At 8 p.m., it is Barton Nunnelly in the Inhumanoids with his wife Letitia. Thursdays at 12 p.m. Central, it's Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Thursday evenings, of course, it is us with Blondes and Booze at 8 o'clock. That is Central Time. On Fridays, you can meet us right back here at 7 p.m. Central. Saturday evenings, we have Paranormal Among Us with Paul. He has his shows at 8 p.m. on Saturday evenings. Sundays at 5 p.m. Central, it is Truth or Tinfoil with Randy Gilbert and myself. After that, at 6 p.m., Tex and Danielle Diva drop their newest episode of Infamous Minds. And as of March 21st, Monica Rollins will be starting a new show on Texas Front Porch. It will be called Our Paranormal World, and that will be at 7 p.m. Central.
Yep. William asked a question. That's a good question, William. When do you girls stop working? Well, to be honest with you, we don't. Full-time jobs, then we get off and we do shows. Yeah, I've literally had to dedicate. So my husband leaves on weekends. He goes to his son's every weekend because we have our horses and stuff over there. And then so through the week, Tuesday through Friday, I do shows. So we have dedicated Mondays to family night.
Right. And see, and Tuesdays I don't have shows, so I dedicate Tuesdays as try to get rest because I'm usually working my other job.
Yeah, we stay busy. We definitely stay busy for sure.
Right. It just never ends. But we wouldn't do it if we didn't love to do it. So
that's right. Absolutely. And we have Will Lunsford on tonight, and I'll tell you what, I'm just going to bring him up.
I know.
There, sir.
Hey everybody, there we go. I'm gonna get back there so y'all can see me a little better. Y'all may want to scoot back up there again. So no, that's too much. But good to see you. Thank y'all for being here with y'all and with me. Again, thank you to our first responders and our service people and our veterans for giving us all this.
Absolutely.
Right. And we can, you guys, I was getting tired listening to the things that y'all are doing, man. I get winded now since I'm retired walking from the couch to the refrigerator, but gosh, you guys are busy. But there's nothing better than doing what y'all do, man. Somebody told me the day, said, Paranormal, said, does that mean that you're abnormal? I said, well, it might. And they said, well, you fit that line. So that's fine too, because this is such a cool, with what you do with ghost hunting and, with what we all do with Bigfoot research and UFOs and things. And folks, these other things are out there. They're out there. We've heard it for years. It's not. And I'm not talking about just the government trying to suppress this. We've heard it from other people who were so much smarter than we are, saying there's no such thing. Walk up on a Bigfoot and see if there's any such thing, because it changes life from that very minute forward.
That's right. Absolutely. We're glad that you agreed to come back. We consider you a friend. We came down to your area and you took us out into the woods and just you and your wife are just two of the nicest people we've truly ever met. You really, you both
absolutely
are.
Yes.
I appreciate that. We all had a good night.
We
that night had a good time, and the only sad part about it was when Marty went home. Also, Martin got sick. I was worried like crazy about him, but they say he's doing well now. So
yeah, he is. He's doing good now.
Got the whole group with a thumbs up, and I'm gonna try. Although I may not can make it, but we're gonna try to go to the beach in Florida maybe that first week in June. So we may just be slipping through there to see y'all at the Alabama Bigfoot.
Oh, that would be wonderful. We would love
that
to see
would be wonderful. Yeah.
That's on the back of my plans if we can just get everything worked out there. And so if that works out, that's going to be great. I look forward to seeing y'all. Look forward to seeing some people there that I'm very fortunate. I get a lot of people who contact me there. A lot of them are from Alabama. So, Alabama's just a Bigfoot central down there. And so I look forward to maybe getting to meet those folks. They've been very kind, very good to share their stories with me. And so I'm looking forward to that. If that gets to work out, if not, I'm going to have to work on it maybe for next year, the next time that y'all do that. But we'll get back together. We had a ball, man. We all ate good. We sit around on the deck and told some Bigfoot stories, and they weren't stories. They were stories, but some of the encounters we've had. And my wife doesn't normally agree with me on anything, but she, as y'all saw, she agreed with everything I said. The things that
your wife is fantastic. She's a great lady.
Well, I appreciate that. She'll appreciate y'all saying she has discovered pickleball. So now, so my Bigfoot hunting is taking a back seat to pickleball.
That worked though.
Yeah. But she's enjoying it. She supported me for years through all my bass tournaments, and boy, those take a lot of time to pre-fish and stuff. I won a lot of money, being successful like that. But she does it just for the fun and for the exercise. But she's got a lifelong friend she's playing with tomorrow that was an All-American in NAIA basketball. Well, very, very talented lady. And so they're going to play. So hopefully they'll win. They're going to get to win a T-shirt. So I guess I'll get to sleep in it like she does the ones that I wear.
That's funny. Yeah.
That sounds about right, though.
Yeah, it does. She is actually a C-class national champion in women's softball. They went all the way to Cincinnati 2 weekends in a row, went through both weekends, 2 days in a row, undefeated, and she won a T-shirt for both of those deals right there. Now, that to say that you're a national champion at anything is pretty good. And then, boy, I mean, they beat some good teams. But so they had a little team from Monticello, Arkansas. And man, those girls, man, they could do anything with a softball. So they won that, and so she was. I'm tickled for her. I'm a national champion one time, and I'm a national bass tournament, and that's it. And so
that's awesome.
It was more so, something kind of very proud for her that she's got that, and like she supports my Bigfoot hunting. Boy, this is not an inexpensive hobby, as we all know that, and especially if you do it to the extent that we do. She tells me I'm ate up with it, and I am. But then, like I said, because I've had the encounters but I've had 2 aggressive encounters, and those were really the things that really locked me in right there. And so, so this is one of those things that, like I said, that she goes with me, and so it's my turn to be, to try to be a good hubby. It's what she's been wife to me. So with that right there, anybody supports you Bigfoot hunting. When we first met, I knew I had to tell her sometime that I had seen the Fouke Monster. And so when I finally did, like I said, I was waiting for her dad to say, well, son, that's great. Pick up your stuff on the way out the door there, and please don't come back. But the story they shared with me was the lady across the street from them, the house they were building. She actually was a member of Garden Club. And so she was hosting a garden party. And while she's there, and she's got all the ladies' chairs backed up or facing the fence there, and so they're facing her towards the yard. And she's got about a 7.5 foot tall rust-colored Bigfoot walking down her fence line. And she panics because she knows if they turn around and see this thing, it's going to be pandemonium. So she starts to become a little bit more animated and everything. And they keep their attention on her. It finally walks on. It steps across and never breaks stride on a 4-strand barbed wire fence and just keeps on going. Well, so sure enough, after that right there, of course, she breathed a sigh of relief, and she told my mother-in-law about it. And this Bigfoot walked on the land that they were just now starting to build their new house on. So I knew after that, gosh, this girl's got Bigfoot on her property. I'm going to have to marry her.
No doubt.
Yeah. So like I said, with that right there, that was kind of how some things started with her. And then it's been good ever since. We showed y'all when y'all came down, she actually has a picture of a baby Bigfoot that she got one day. And what's one of those pictures you ever see? You can see his little 3-fingered hand out there, and he's peeking out of the woods. You see the little black eyes and little button nose and stuff. And the cool part about that was she had mama behind her, and then there was this thing's twin was right there next to the other one. So again, like I said, I chose right and very lucky in that realm right there. But
yes, you did.
Yes, you did. But we really enjoyed having y'all, man. Like I said, if we could do that,
we enjoyed it.
Yeah, if we could do that once a week, I'd be happy with the rest of my life. We really, really some great researchers, some great people. That's what makes this hobby so good, because everybody thinks, oh man, these guys are crazy. They're talking about a 9-foot ape or whatever it is that lives into the woods there. Then they're talking about UFOs and things like that. But you meet some of these people and you realize why we do it, because it's some of the best people in the world that you'll ever meet. So
absolutely. I agree. My best friends are all weird.
That's true. That's it. She's not lying.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let y'all run your own show now. I just want to drop those few things in. I'll share some more stuff that I've been doing here lately. It's really, really cool here as soon as we get started here. So y'all go right ahead. And
absolutely. And you and your wife too. You guys also rescue dogs. And I think that's awesome.
We do rescue dogs. It's not one of those deals where we're like a C3 and, we get to deduct it. We have to do it out of our own pocket. But, still, like I said, my son is out of the house now, and so we have whatever money he was eating us out of house and home on, we take that and apply it to the dogs. But we rescued one just this week, a little half pit and a half lab.
Oh,
they are so big you could put high top tennis shoes on him. I mean, they're just huge, but he was just sweet. And we're the ones that benefit from that. You know, we get them shots, we get them spayed and neutered, and before we send them off, we have some rescues we work with. And so they actually have people set up to adopt these dogs. As soon as they get there, they're ready to get these dogs. And so far, knock on wood, everything has gone good. And that's what, so doing that right there, but it's really, really worth it. And it breaks your heart when you put them on the transport like that. I'm a big softie. I shed a few tears. I don't mind telling you, I love dogs, you know. And then, but to see that they're having this good lives, and these people send us back videos and things like this of them and their dogs and watching dogs, are worth every penny.
Absolutely, absolutely, it is. So I mean, you can't beat that. I recently just we adopted a cat from it was a rescue. So yeah, but I do have dogs too.
Well, you know, and they need that rescuing like that right there. I said, people are getting sorry, unfortunately, not my group right here that we're talking to, but the ones who just go, this dog we rescued this week, little beautiful little dog, little blonde and white, little blaze on his nose. They went and laid him underneath the pavilion and just drove off. And he sat there for 2 days, according to the city worker who called us and told us that the dogs he laid there for 2 days and wouldn't get up and leave in case his owner came back. Man, if that don't pull at your heartstrings, you know.
That's awful.
Yeah, that's terrible. It's terrible. But anyway, but like I said, we're getting benefit. This little booger out there, when I walk him, he puts his leash in his mouth, rolls his head back, and he just trots out there like he's, walking down, like he's a runway model or something like that. And you can't help but laugh. But so that's kind of what we do right there. And like I said, since my wife says discovered pickleball, we're really staying busy now. But
right.
Yeah. Wow. Very cool. Very cool. You mentioned that, you've had a couple of aggressive encounters. Let's start there.
Okay. Boy, my very first one, of course, y'all know my story. My first encounter, it wasn't aggressive, but he walked out there where he was hidden on the side of this road. He was squatted down there and he had a limb there pulled in front of his face. And I saw the shadow and the shape, and I'm like, boy, I don't recall that being there. Well, finally, all of a sudden, when he starts standing up, he starts lifting this limb. He gets the limb where it's supposed to be, and then he keeps standing up. Then he walks out in front of me, in front of the road, sit there and does this noise for a little bit, walks back to the tree, sits there for a little bit, what we call skin the cat with the leaves, and he walks back out again. I'm like, I'm fixing to die. And man, like I said, I was hyperventilating. There were tears running down my eyes. I was praying, for sure, and wanted the good Lord to, watch out for my mom if something did happen to me. And so then that kind of got started, but that wasn't really aggressive. He just kind of postured towards me, just whenever he's, doing anything like that, just like, don't come down here, and I don't know if he was ill, because he was eating leaves. One of the people on the Finding Bigfoot show, I'm not going to call their name, but he actually asked me, he said, do you reckon it's like a dog when a dog is sick and this thing might have been eating leaves? Could it have some kind of malady or something or other like that? And I thought, I'd never thought about that before. And I thought, well, it could be. So what kind is it? So I went to all the nurseries. Being a UPS man, I was able to go to these different nurseries with the leaves. Wasn't able to get back on the same property, but I was very close. And so I found the same bush, took it up there. And so anyway, it was it's called a rusty black haw viburnum tree, and it grows wild out there, but it has little berries that come to it. It's a branch of the honeysuckle, but these berries and these leaves are used actually to treat stomach problems. They're used to treat muscle problems. They're used to treat menstrual problems in ladies and things like that. So I thought that was a really a good question from him, something that I had not thought about, because I told him, I said, buddy, he said, what kind was it? I said, I don't know. I said, that's like saying, is the pit bull that's fixing to bite you, was he raised on Old Roy or was he raised on Purina? You just don't care.
Right.
But anyway, so to find that out, I thought that kind of showed a lot of insight, something I hadn't thought of. But like I said, I'm going to give them credit on that part right there, as far as making it to where it's vogue, to where we can talk about what we do. Some of the other stuff I don't necessarily agree with, but that right there, like I said, I'm one for giving credit. I don't criticize other Bigfoot researchers publicly, but I do. So like I believe in giving credit where credit was due. And so then my next aggressive encounter was, I guess it was probably about 7 years ago. And so I take it back. Let me go with another one. I had one Easter Sunday, 2014. That would have been my next one. That's when me and my wife and my son, I did a show with Travel Channel called These Woods Are Haunted. And we were out there that night. We were just having a good time. My son's last day before he had to go back to dental school. And so my wife finally agreed to go. So we're out there that night, and I'm doing some, series of calls and things. And folks, calling Bigfoot does work. It doesn't always the same one. Sometimes you have to go through sometimes it's tree knocking. Sometimes it's, like a whoop call, something other like that right there. So, and this right here was the first time I'd ever tried rock clacking, because what I had been doing, I do a barred owl call, man. They'll answer to a barred owl call 9 times out of 10. I've got a little recorder like those flutes you have to play in grade school. Man, you blow one of them things, they'll tend to respond to those. And also one of those little train whistles like you get it, Cracker Barrel or something like that. They'll answer those pretty doggone steady. A wounded rabbit. But anyway, they weren't answering anything this night. So anyway, I got to rock clacking. Well, sure enough, finally I get the woo, and I told my wife, I said, well, there he is right there. She says, hey, she said, that sounds like an owl. I said, well, that owl weighs about 200 pounds. That's an owl, so she was kind of dismissive a little bit,
Yeah.
And so we start hearing, and he starts creeping around us there. And come to find out, I'll throw this in. He's got a buddy with him, but we don't hear the buddy until he runs off later on. But he's starting to creep around there a little bit. And I said, see, there he is right there. And she goes, well, I don't hear anything else. And I said, just be quiet, give him a chance. So pretty soon, I said, he's tiptoeing around there, and this has got a lot of leaf litter and some pine needles and things. But you can still hear him every now and then snap a twig. You can hear the leaves going. And I said, he's trying to sneak up on us, and he's trying to see, what we are. That's what they'll do. They'll sneak up on you once they realize you're not a threat, or they realize what you are and that you're not another Bigfoot that's doing the rock clacking thing. Then they'll just kind of ease off. So anyway, he sits right there, and then my son is over there. He is actually hanging up daggum beef jerky, but we've been doing that long before Jack Link's picked up, Sasquatch as their mascot. So he's hanging out there, and so he's putting out food and things to bait in. So all of a sudden, this thing starts stepping in towards us a little bit heavier. And I said, he's standing there over there. Cindy said, there he is. She goes, where? And I said, gotta be quiet, just. So anyway, she's sitting there and she waits a minute. Well, pretty soon he starts trying to sneak in again. And they're a soft-footed animal, so you really got to listen. And so she was playing Words with Friend or Angry Bird, something like that, sitting on the back of my truck. The one thing you always do when you're Bigfoot hunting, you point that vehicle to where you can get out of there safely the quickest way you can. And they were, her and my son were fussing at me because I had left the keys in, and every time they would open the door, then bing, 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 with him. Oh, we're never going to see anything. You need to take the keys out. I said, no, you don't want to take the keys out. I said, we'll just have to deal with it. So anyway, so as we're sitting there, and then my son opens the door and starts dinging a little bit. And I said, man, you got to be quiet. So pretty soon then we hear him walking in a bit more again. Well, this time he is more deliberate, and he's stomping just a little bit harder, like I'm fixing to intimidate you and get you out of here. Now, it could have been because we were in his territory. It could have been because it was spring and he was Twitter-pated, or it could have been, because of my wife. They do tend to, with you ladies, they do tend to be more aggressive, more out there to where you can see them more. Because you ladies work on us guys. Y'all got that beautiful soft voice, and it affects them as well. So this thing is coming in there, and so I said, he's there. He is, Cindy. Well, anyway, he stopped, and I said, he's over there. I said, he's standing right there. She goes, where? And I said, I'll show you in just a minute. So sure enough, then when things finally start again, he starts coming in a little bit more. Again, he's stepping a little bit harder. I think he's trying to intimidate me because my son is with me, and of course we're armed. You don't go to the woods down here not to kill Bigfoot. You go down here to protect yourself from anything else. So all of a sudden he's coming in, and I said, there he is, Cindy, right over here. So for whatever reason, I decided to do a whoop call, which is whoop, whoop, like that. But I did it real, real low. Well, when I did it, I had a little bit evidently too much bass in my voice, or I said the wrong thing, because here he comes. And man, he's coming in on a dead run, and he is not happy. And whenever his feet hit the ground, it's vibrating the ground, and you can hear it. And my wife goes, I said, Cindy, here he comes. I said, remember I told you one's coming in? Here he is. She goes, I don't hear anything. She goes, I hear him now. So she's sitting there, and so she starts to jump up. And so as he's coming in, I pull out, I have my pistol, and I have my spotlight. Your best friend at night on Bigfoot hunt is a good bright spotlight. They don't like light. They'll take your pistol and bend it like on Popeye.
Sure.
You go out there at nighttime with spotlight, and that will tend to stop him. So here he is coming in. By the time I get his shadow, I throw the spotlight up. He throws it one hand up and just goes down in one motion, just goes down, hits the ground, starts running backwards on all fours, about probably 5 or 6, good long strides. And then he jumps up and starts running through the woods over in front of my son. I'm like, oh crap, man, he thinks my son's the weak link. So I went and got in front of Reese, and then Cindy goes and she gets right there at the truck. And so she finally gets inside, and then she hollers at my son, give me a gun. So he gives her a flashlight. She said, what good is this? And he says, you're better off with that than you are a gun. She said, you give me a gun. So she's got a gun. And so this thing goes and gets in a tree in front of my son. And you can hear him in the tree, and he is not happy. I figure he's plotting his next move, and I'm trying to plot my next move. And so sure enough, there she gets in the vehicle, and she sits there. And then you hear the thing jump out of the tree. And then when he does, he takes off. Oh, yeah. I mean, and hey, when it hits now, like I said, you're talking about probably 800 to 1,000 pounds. When it hits, like I said, it makes one heck of a racket. And so he takes off, and then his buddy that I told you about that we didn't know was there, and he's following him up there. So anyway, then it gets deathly quiet. Again, like I said, deathly quiet, just like the inside of a tomb. And my wife goes, did you hear that? And I said, no, what? She goes, that's right, nothing. What do you hear? Nothing. I said, I don't hear anything. She said, it's just really quiet. And so then she goes, I'll tell you what. She said, if you guys hear this truck start up, said, you better jump into the back because I'm gone. Now, my son is fixing to be a dentist. They would never, the odds of a doctor coming from my loins were slim and none. We got a son that's fixing to be a dentist, and then she's going to run off and leave him there in the woods. I said, Cindy, so you're going to leave your only son and your husband out here in the woods with a road Bigfoot? And she goes, I'll have more kids. You better listen to me. So we sit there, and it was almost comical when she said it, except it was very one of them hairy situations where it's still, you don't know how that's going to go, and I didn't know if there was, I didn't know the second was there. There could have been a third one. Right. So anyway, her sister-in-law calls about that time. Hey, what are y'all doing? She goes, we're down here in the Bigfoot woods. She goes, you have any luck? She goes, yeah. I said, it's not luck. I said, it's bad luck. I said, we just had one run up on us, and just very, very aggressive. And her sister-in-law goes, well, you're going to die. I'm like, well, gee, great. Thanks for that. So, oh, yeah.
Right.
So I got to hear about it all the way home, but it was kind of funny. But she goes, what made you think this was a good idea? And I said, Cindy, because you've always wanted to see one. And I said, we'd had that one working with us since December the 9th. They're hollering at us and stuff like that. And so this is, I think it was about April the 6th of what that day was on that Easter Sunday right there. So I went back and looked at it one time, but I've forgotten. But anyway, about 5 months, we'd had him working with us just every time we went down there. So we knew she wanted to see one, well, just a little bit more than she wanted. But the one about 8 years ago, I went down there, and me and my friend Randy Crawford had found a Bigfoot track that afternoon down there at a place called Thornton's Well on Mercer Bayou. That's one place when y'all come back, I'm going to take y'all down there because it's really, really scary. It's right there on the edge of Mercer Bayou. And so when we find this track down there, we didn't have time. By the time we found it, we didn't have time to cast it. And I wanted to track because it had good toes. All the toes were the very same length over there. Most of the toes you see, will be kind of very length, but the toes on the end were very, almost like it's maybe a skunk ape or a different kind of different species. Right. So I saw him and said, he said, man, I can't come back tomorrow. He travels for Georgia Pacific. And so he said, well, I can't come back. I said, well, I'll come back tomorrow. And I said, I'll try to catch it. Well, I take my black pit bull down there. And so I've got my guns, I've got all my tools and everything, got them in a bucket, and I jump out right quick, and I put her on the leash. My pit bull jumps out, and we get just not too far from the truck, just far enough where we can't get back quick enough if we wanted to. And this thing is up on the hill, and I didn't know it. And man, I'm like, oh crap, and my pit bull, who would give her life for me in a heartbeat, man, all of a sudden her hackles went up on her neck, her tail went down. She went down, but she didn't know whether to become aggressive towards this thing or whether to try to save herself. So we're sitting there, we're far enough away. And of course, like I said, I've got several rifles, I've got several pistols and a shotgun and a rifle. And then I've got several pistols. And so I decided I was going to walk down there to go ahead and try to cast the track. So I get down to where the track is. And it had been so hot down here in Texas at that time that the actual track had almost, the dam, which is what you have on the inside that you pour your plaster Paris in, had just about evaporated. So I didn't have a belt on at that time. So I wasn't able to put a belt around there to lay the plaster Paris down. So anyway, I decided, well, heck, I'm just going to have to forego this one because it was I was already unnerved because of the way the thing had been acting. So anyways, we start walking back, he screams again. And this time he's down off the hill, kind of, sounds like maybe 10 foot off the road. And of course, like I said, then Tippy, my pit, is she's like, well, he's not going to get you and he's not going to get me. So she's still a bit more, she's a little bit more forward at that time, but still, man, she is nervous. She's going back and forth across the road like that. But this time her tail's up. And so I thought, oh man, what are we going to do? So anyway, I had my fob. And so I hit my fob where my horn was. So anyway, when I hit that horn, it started honking. I think it kind of threw him for a loop because he didn't know what to do then. I got back to the vehicle, unlocked my truck. She jumped from the ground over my seat and my console on Z71 in one jump. And then she gets over and she's just shaking like that. And of course, I'm looking to see if he's still there. I can't see him, but I know he's still there because I began to smell just a little bit of that smell that you've heard they have. And that generally, what I think is that it is a way to intimidate you sometimes, and to maybe incapacitate its prey or something other like that. So anyway, so me and Tippy jump in there and we leave and we come back home. I called my son. I said, man, we're down here at Thornton Wells. Said it nearly got serious for us. And he goes, don't you get my dog killed? And I said, he's going to have to kill me before he kills my dog. You know, and I'm a no-kill guys. I'm not going to kill him as far as that goes. It's just, I've seen the mothers, like those babies I was telling you about, I've seen the mothers be just as nurturing. Me and my son have walked up on a mama with 2 babies down at Mercer Bayou Public Boat Ramp, and she sat there and watched us and just put up with us just like she was her own little ones there. So like I said, I don't want to shoot one of these things. And but anyway, this right here was very unnerving. So that was the 2 times that I have had a definite aggressive encounter, and I almost had one 2 years ago. He ran down the hill on me on one day, and I was hanging out cameras, and he stuck around. He took back off, and then I thought, oh, good. You know, he knows I'm here. He knows where my cameras are. I'll come back about 2 days later to check my dog on cameras. He come back down the hill this time, and he was like, you better get your butt out of here. I mean, he rattled limbs. He stomped on the ground. He sit there and snapped limbs. He, doing that huff. And I'm like, and so I had 2 pistols on. I was like Wild Bill Hickok. I just pulled the pistol, and I backed up the road because backed up the hill because he was not acting the same way any of them had ever acted down there before. So when you have those kind of encounters, they're addictive, but then you realize that it's not going to be any kind of teddy bear pillow fight. It can be a more aggressive thing. So, but with that, it tends to get you where you're more involved in this thing. You have that kind of encounter. And then you have the rest of them, all the times I have been able to see Bigfoot and have the encounters to where they've been just as gentle. I've told y'all before, we got one up there at one place in the Ouachita Mountains. She actually follows me and Stephen around. We get those babies that come out there with the mamas. They'll bring them right to the edge of the woods. Me and Daniel Becker, y'all have met my friend Daniel Becker. Daniel, and Daniel's boy is a great researcher. He's actually started a podcast too. There, so I'll send y'all the info on that. Maybe
absolutely.
Man, he's been out 3 times with me down here. 3 times he's gotten a photograph. Now, man, you can't beat that kind of odds,
No, not at all.
One of them's about a 10.5 footer, big black one. And so he's smart enough to have a photographer lined up. He sends this picture back to this photographer back in Anchorage, Alaska, where Daniel lives. And so she has some kind of a deal that draws but draws a picture there, a laser picture. And you can see the Bigfoot, which is exactly what we're looking at, And then he calls L.A. Marzulli and sends it to Marzulli while we're still in the field, and this thing is still out there. And Marzulli's like, oh, yeah. He said, there's no doubt, what this is. And so, So anyway, it's really, really cool to have those kind of encounters like that right there. And the more you have, sometimes it gets you more hooked. Sometimes it's going fishing when you don't catch anything. You're bound to determine you're going to come back and try it again. So
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that night that you took us out, we heard something out there in the woods. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I sure do remember that. You betcha. That place right there is where I had the mama and the 2 babies that night that I told y'all was real towards me and my son, just generous as she could be. Yeah. But that place has also been where I had me and Stephen, the first time we went down to Mercer Bayou down there in the Sulphur River bottoms around Fouke. And we had 2 of them rush in on us in there, and they weren't happy. That's where I had my second Bigfoot encounter ever after I had my first one there back in 1977. Well, there was one, my nephew and I were fishing. So he was over there in the corner of the parking lot, and we didn't know it. We couldn't see it because it was dark 30 when we got in. I just bought a new boat. Didn't know how long it'd take to get back, but we're sitting there having a good time. Man, we're laughing and all that stuff, and we weren't in any hurry. And man, all of a sudden, the same noise I gave y'all a while ago. Man, and my little nephew just turns white. You can see him glowing in the dark. He's just that scared. He goes, William, what is that? I said, get in the truck. What? I said, get in the truck. I said, get in the truck. So he gets in the truck. I don't even tie my new boat down. I get over there in my driver's side, and I drive about a mile where there's another road that intersects a more public road. And then I tie my boat down. As soon as I get out, he's like, you're not getting out, are you? I said, yeah, you'll be fine. Just wait. So we did. And so that one really got me hooked too, because I knew the first time I just quit going to that one area. And I had been hunting there with my dad and fishing with my dad there for years. Well, this time I realized, hey, and this is about 5 miles apart, these first two encounters. And I'm like, shoot, if this is the case, I better learn more about these things. Now, I had been trying to find something there after I had my first encounter, but there just wasn't that much in 1977. So, but then after this is 1985, and then there was a little bit more. We done had the Momo, the Louisiana Monster, up there.
Yeah.
We had that and had several more. And of course, Patty was back in 1967, but mine was 10 years after Patty. But there's more stuff that was available. So I started learning, and the more I learned, the better Bigfoot researcher I became. I worked at UPS, had a job delivering out in the country, and I'm not shy. And so I would say something like to somebody out there, you live so far out here in the woods. If Bigfoot don't live out here, it's because it's too far for him to walk. And most everybody laugh. We cut up. Then every now and then you get something like the one lady who said, well, if you believe that, you need to be here about dark. Well, man, like I said, that got me, really got me buzzed up and listened real good. And I told her, well, I'm afraid of the dark. And she goes, well, you should be. I'm like, oh, no. She said, well, you want to come back? I said, I'd love to, but had to change routes and never got a chance to come back and visit up there. So, again, it's something that's really, really, been very fortunate to have the encounters. I've got some stuff here I'm going to start sharing here pretty soon. I'm working with a man named Shane Church with the Southern Bigfoot Alliance. And Shane is very, very good with computers and pictures and things. I've gotten several pictures within about the last 3 months there. I told you I've got one there where it's nighttime, but man, he's just leaned over there at the camera. The light is shining off of him. You can see the shadow. I mean, he's just massive. And then I got one last week there where it's actually daytime, and we have a PVC feeder. And PVC is that large plastic pipe where we've got it stuck up in a tree, and I dump apples in there. That way they have to reach in there, and you can tell sometimes when the pipe is moved that they have been there getting your apples, and your apples will be gone. But he's standing behind this PVC pipe, and we have one called Blackie, and I truly think this is Blackie because, man, he's 4 feet wide at the shoulder. There's no doubt. I know that because I'm 2 feet wide at the shoulder, and he's 4 foot. He's 4 foot wide, and he's sitting there just looking. I'm like, oh my gosh! And so I said, I'm gonna send that to Shane. Shane is very good at clearing photos up, and then so get that one done. And then I've got 2 little white babies there, and my friend Jim Owenby. He's going to be such a blessing to us and our Bigfoot research. He's very, very smart. He can do anything that can be done. Jim took a log, probably about 4 foot long, and he hollowed out the middle of it about probably a foot and a half down there, and cut out a little peeping window so that the lens of my camera could hang out. We put some stuffing in there to hold the camera up, and he put a locking latch on the top. So he just folded it over about like you have that locks a screen door or something like that. So we got the camera sitting in there, and we start coming back, and we see that the log is moved, but we don't get any pictures there like that. So sometimes deer can do that, so you're hopeful and you're optimistic, but you don't know. But anyway, we go back there, and sure enough, then I've got 2 white ones for sure, and 2 white babies, and maybe another little brown one up there. It's not as clear, but they're sitting there, and the one white one is just bold as he can be, and he's sitting there and he's looking at my camera, and he's actually got 3 little fingers there between his face like that right there. So you can see that right there, and you can see his brother up on his shoulder. Evidently, his brother or sister, whatever it is not quite as bold as what he is. And then you see the little brown one there. And then the next picture we got of this week, I said it's something there there's 2 white things out there, but it didn't come out clear. It's like I called MK Davis, who I consider to be one of the best researchers in the world for Bigfoot, and I asked MK, had he ever experienced anything like that? He had some experience with a white Bigfoot down here in Texas, or knew about a white Bigfoot. And he said it could be because the way they can bend their hair, the light bends over their hair, and so it doesn't come out clear, even though it's standing right there in front of your camera. So that was very, very insightful for him too. Anytime I can learn from other Bigfoot researchers, I try. But anyway, I've got that right there. That's going to be going to Shane again to get cleared up, and then some of the other pictures that we've got. And this is the month, folks, that you need to be out in the woods, because The farther north you go up, the later this tends to happen. But down here, I get most of my really good pictures, especially ones with the babies, will come in March. And so, like I said, I'm already getting baby pictures there. Went about 3 weeks ago, and we didn't get to see but we got the footprints. We didn't get to see the baby animals themselves, but we got to see the footprints where they had come across a place that had been clear cut, and they stepped out into the road right there. There's 5 or 6 little tracks about 7 or 8 inches long, something like that. So we knew they were just getting started. Yeah. So I think they have their babies, and me and Stephen and my camera work will back this up. My phone tends to record any date that you take a picture. And so instead of, I used to put it on, in a notebook and stuff, and I lost my notebook. I'm like, well, man, when I got a better phone, all I have is a flip phone. Well, now I've got a phone that records the dates, and it'll actually record the locations and stuff. And so that's been a big help to me. But anyway, March is the month that I tend to get more pictures than any other month. And you get some, but I mean, as far as there was March 2019, me and Stephen were getting probably a picture every day and a half, no joke. I mean, we got some white ones, we got some black ones, we got some, and so that's one of those things that right now, if you're not out in the woods right now, you may be missing it, because the further north you go up, the good thing is that way is it tends to happen a little bit later. It's about like,
Brandy and I will be out in the woods this month. We're going to the LBL, so yeah.
Oh gosh, man. So y'all are brave. That place, me and Stephen went the one night there, and we actually had something walk around our tent, but it was a snowstorm. But everybody who'd been there for 3 or 4 days had some kind of activity, or they'd heard them hollering or stuff like that. Well, this is walk around mine, Stephen's tent. And I told Stephen, I said, we got a Bigfoot out there walking around our tent. Well, I reached down there to get I've got a sawed-off shotgun, and I got that sawed-off shotgun and reached down to get my shells, and like a knucklehead, I had left my shells in the side pocket of his door. So I guess, yes, I guess I'm going to have to try to pistol whip him. But you can hear him, and like I said, it's snowing to beat the band for sure. I mean, and I didn't truly, girls, I'm not trying to be crude, but I didn't want to go out and use the bathroom. It was just because he was very much there. And so finally later on, it got so cold on Stephen and I, it was about 19 degrees that day up at LBL. And so we ran out of propane. He goes, man, I'm going to have to get in the truck. And I'm like, secretly, I said, thank goodness. And Stephen's like 6'4" and about 330, but he's not fat. He's a big robust man. And so I thought, oh man, I'm not going to tell him that I was scared to death to get out there. So anyway, but we got in, and you could see then by that time it snowed enough that you could see some of the imprints there that were starting to fill in with the snow.
Wow. Are you sure it was Bigfoot and not Dogman there?
I really think it was Bigfoot. Me and we had heard some up on the hill that night. Whenever I was sitting there, as soon as we got there, we were hearing some up there on the hill that were whistling at us. And so it could have been maybe Gugwé or something like that. But they were whistling. Gary Spike Sr. was who I was talking to, and he was sitting there. And I said, listen to that, Gary. And so anyway, we stopped and we listened. Wait a minute. Just as soon as we started talking, whistled a couple more times. But it was up on the hill. One lady had a Bigfoot up there. Dogman is scarce. I've seen Dogman. I showed you all the pictures. We got Dogman. We got Dogman up there where we've got them in both places. We researched the most. We've got them here around Sulphur River. Then we have them up there around the Washington Mountains up there. Yeah. And we had one night that we got the Dogman come in. But he was actually leading 3 good size. I mean, these were adult Bigfoot. These weren't the 10-footers, but they were 3 great big Bigfoot. And the Dogman was actually walking up the hill before the Bigfoot was. And then there was a little bitty Dogman back there. And as soon as they saw us, the little bitty Dogman went underneath a laying log there and hid. The Bigfoot just went down like that right there. And then I don't know if they went on all fours or what, but they disappeared. But the Dogman's still standing up. So Stephen's got his phone, and I'm the one that's holding the gun, and so he's got his phone. He's taking the pictures. Not that it matters to he and I, because it doesn't. We're team members, but he's taking some more pictures. And finally, I checked one of the collateral pictures. Well, sure enough, one of these Bigfoot is a mama Bigfoot. You can see her anatomically to know that it is a female Bigfoot, and she's actually herding. I'm gonna put that word, herding, like herding cows, herding her little juvenile away from where this Dogman and these other Bigfoot were. So we got pictures of that. So, but Dogman is very real. But ours so far, we've got a couple more pictures of Dogman, but they're not so far with us. And maybe it's just the species down, but so far they haven't been aggressive. Now, when they howl, buddy, you're thinking, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's just
And
like,
you actually have one of the best pictures I've ever seen. Well, I don't know if I've seen any others of a Gugwé.
oh
Right
yeah.
there where you researched too.
Now that dude right there, that was probably number 3 that was gonna get violent, and I got smart enough to get out of there because this was on March the 2nd. Oh, right. I'm gonna say 3 years. It was 3 years ago or 4 years ago, but we had just finished the Keith Crabtree spring camp out. Keith Crabtree, my research partner and friend, he has a camp out every year down there at a place called Smith Park. And man, that's about not just the place that time forgot, but it's the place that time never knew, because you have so much activity down there. And I had just left Keith. I had casted some tracks in an open field there. took out some Boy Scouts, and we found some tracks there. So when we got through doing the things for the Boy Scouts, I went and casted these tracks, but the ground was wet, so it took a little bit longer for them to dry. So we have church on Sunday nights, and this is on Sunday evening. So anyway, I had to wait a little bit longer, but on the way down, I had seen a big X formation where these trees are just like this. And I mean, it was perfect. It had 2 forks up the top, had 2 forks on this other side, crossed perfectly in the middle right there. And I thought, well, shoot, I've got time just to go down and look at that right quick instead of having to drive this 20 miles back. So anyway, I parked my truck on the side of the road. I run down there right quick to look at it, and I'm sitting here looking at this X right there. I just happened to see it on my peripheral vision. Here comes this black thing on all 4s, hauling tail across this oak flat. And I'm like, well, that's a daggum hog running through there. So I'm sitting there looking. Well, pretty soon I realized, hey, that's not a hog. That's a Bigfoot, I thought. So anyway, he sits there and he runs and he's looking at me and he slows down. He's got that head turned that way, and then he goes in behind some brush. So anyway, I have my phone out. I'm like, I'm gonna get a picture of that, thinking you're not thinking Gugwé or anything. I wasn't even that familiar with it anyway. I go down there and I have to cross a broken down cedar tree that I'm sure they had broken. It had done stripped all the bark. I'm heading towards where this quote Bigfoot had gone into the brush. And I look over there and there's a big laying down log that has got the spider kind of roots on it. And his head is stuck down the middle of these spider roots just like that. So I almost can't even see him. And I stopped and looked and I'm like, that's not right. And sure enough, he turned his head and looked back like this right here. Well, he had a hunting buddy with him, I'm sure. But I already had my phone out. I took 3 pictures and I just had a 40 caliber Glock is all I had. And then he turned right back and did the same thing, just, tried to play the statue game with me. I got the heck out of there, man. I've got 2 metal knees, had some semi-wet leaves, and man, I was flying up there, man. I looked like Usain Bolt, running into the Olympics, because I got up there and got out of Dodge. So I sent my pictures to my buddy, Randy Crawford. Randy's very good too. Randy's got several computers in his house. And so he set the pictures side by side on the monitors there. And he said, you got something there. I said, well, I know I got something there. I watched him, he said, well, let's go tomorrow. And I couldn't do it. Usually I'm not scared. I've never run from Bigfoot since 1977, the first one I saw. I ran from this for what I thought was a Bigfoot. So I called my buddy and told him about it. He's a Native American. He said, that's a Gugwé. He said, did he look over his shoulder? And I said, yeah. He goes, he was hunting you. And he said he was going to get you. And I said, yeah, I kind of got that impression. So he kind of expounded to me, some of the traits of Gugwé and things like that. And so I couldn't go because, like I said, I had PTSD. Well, sure enough, my son, unknown to me, had bought me a 45-70 rifle. And so that 40 caliber Glock wasn't going to do nothing. Just maybe if you shot the right spot, maybe scratch a few mosquito bites, because you wasn't going to do anything. But that 40 caliber, that 45-70 will actually shoot lengthwise to the grizzly bear. And that's what they used to hunt bison with here, in the American West. Yeah. And so I felt better there. But this one here, I would kill a Gugwé, because a Gugwé does not mean you any good at all. They call them whistling bears. They call them face eaters. They've got claws. Bigfoot has fingernails. I showed y'all pictures of Bigfoot fingernails. They have fingernails like we do. Gugwé's got claws. And so he's sitting right there. So if it come to me or him, it's going to be him. And as long as I can hit him running, shooting back over my shoulder, because I wasn't going to stand there and wait on him. But that Gugwé is really real. And I'm looking at that. So we go back. I find some 17-inch tracks right there from that Gugwé. I find a couple of hunting blinds there. They're what they'll actually do in Bigfoot will as well. They'll actually build these vines together almost like an igloo, or else into like a tent or a teepee. And at this time of the year, the vines were just starting to grow. But there was 2 hunting blinds down right off the edge of this trail. And so, man, that was just scary as it could be. But it was cool because I got the picture, and it's a good picture.
Well, and you showed us the area. You showed us where you took that picture.
That's right.
And I got to tell you, everybody in chat, like it's is swampy, thick brush. I mean, like they could be just 2 feet in the tree line, and you won't even see them.
And that's the truth, because this thing came out of a bottom there. This is right on the edge of what's called Sulphur River, close to Mercer Bayou, and like you said, it's just all swamps. And and there's you've got every animal down there that's known to Arkansas,
including alligators.
Including alligators. Our alligators are already active down here right now. Believe it or not, all my buddies that are fishing are like, "Oh gosh, man, the gator followed me all the way down the creek," But so it was really, really strange. But where to have that thing, to see that like that. But that's one of the things. The people around here at Fouke, Arkansas, Keith Crabtree lovingly calls me the Fouke Monster Hunter. Well, but I've been doing it. It had consumed me, and I was going to learn more about this thing. And so I get to research with Keith. He was the man who played the monster in the movie.
Yep, very nice guy, because you introduced him to us as well.
Yes, super guy. He drove the car in the movie, and very, very knowledgeable. He's part of the Smoky Crabtree family. That's his nephew and everything like that. So he's a very good researcher, very good friend of mine as well. So I consider myself very fortunate to have made his friendship, and we swap. I'm not of the kind, y'all know, the kind of where I think I've got this $1 million picture and I'm not going to show people. I've showed them with y'all and have and showed some with our friend Duke there, and I put some there with the Sawdust Beast in there. And last year I got a picture there of looks to be about a 3 or 4 foot little juvenile, and he's just face to face, eyeballs, just looking into the camera. And the guys from Sawdust Beast just blew their mind. They just laughing, because this little thing is he's not going to move. He's going to look at that thing until either it quits looking at him or he quits, so, but that was real cool. But so anyway, this area down here, like I said, a lot of people call it Monster Central. I've seen Bigfoot around here in Oklahoma. I've seen them in Texas. I've seen them just on the inside of the Louisiana line, and I've seen them in Arkansas. And then I saw one in Montana with Duke there. And then I've tracked one down the banks of the Mississippi River up there at Memphis, right there, not at Mud Island, just not a mile from where the pyramid is. So, we think, oh, gosh. Yeah. So you never know, but that's what makes it so cool,
Right.
So, but so it's been all. Yeah. Go ahead, ladies. I'm sorry.
You wouldn't think, though, at Mud Island, in Memphis, you would not think it. But I can see
populated area there.
Yep. Yeah, that is super populated. I know they hold a festival there every year. It's called Memphis in May, and it's right there. I mean, you can look right on Mud Island. I mean, it's but yeah, I could see it. I could see it happening.
I told my son, and he went back out there himself. Then later on, he got a day. I mean, sure enough, he found some structures, and they love to build those tree structures. Found some structures and things. I found what he sure was, tracks in there. This is what I did. The one that I had could have been the same one, but anyway, I had tracked this one down, walking down the edge of the Mississippi River in one of the biggest metropolitan areas in the country. So really, really cool to see something other like that. And we tend to think of them, and they do. They don't mind having human contact. They don't mind. We're their entertainment. They do. Yeah. They do stuff with us, where I think they do it just to see what kind of reaction they can get out of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Certain people are going to have a real wild reaction, but it's really, really and folks, I hope y'all know that I'm telling you the truth, and I've told you this before. Bigfoot is real. Real. It's as real as all three of us right here on this podcast. I've seen a bunch of them. I'm not going to tell you how many, but I've got a picture of 7 of them in one field there, 2 twin 7-foot brothers, and then the rest of them are out there in the field. I've got pictures of 5 over there right there. 2 of them are in the tree. The other 3 are sitting on the base of the tree. I've got several pictures of where there's like 3 Bigfoot in there. And so I'm just very fortunate, not because I'm the world's greatest Bigfoot hunter, because I'm certainly not. There's no experts. But when you're out there in the woods and you're in an area that you has got them in there, I truly expect to see a Bigfoot when I go down there. I don't know how to do that, but I'm really looking at it. I think that makes me look exceptionally hard because they're so good at hiding. If you see a Bigfoot there, I've got several pictures here, and whenever you see a Bigfoot, he'll always have his head turned. You don't ever get one where his head's popped up like that, except the babies. But when you get like a mature Bigfoot, that head's going to be turned or tilted down that shoulder, something like that. Another characteristic seems to be that on their hands that they have right there, This finger here tends to be bent, or like it's almost been broken or something. And I've seen that about
Wow.
four or five of the hands pictures that I've got, and it's just about every single time. So I don't know if that's a trait or whatever it is, but that's something that I've noticed that's one thing I'll look for every time I do, if I'm not sure about if that's a handprint or not, and then look. And then, like I said, I've got pictures of that. I've got a picture of a 14-inch handprint that I got down there at Mercer Bio. I got one off my window there where the thing was walking down in Oklahoma, had his hand on my window right there, and the finger again is broken like that. I say broken, it's actually bent broken. And then I've got one there of one that I got here, actually again right here on the outskirts of Texarkana, just a mile outside the city, where the finger's that way. So really a strange but magnificent animal. Beautiful coats most of the time. You get some may have mange and stuff, but they can they really are something that when you see, just you realize God made creatures that we don't if you don't look hard, because they're so good at what they do inside their element, their environment, you're not going to see them. But once you stop and slow down, boy, they'll sit right there next to a tree and just let you go right on by. And then I had a friend of mine, black man, and he saw one. He said, man, I walk down this trail every day. He said, I went by this trail. He said, I would have never seen him. He said, except all of a sudden when I went by, he said, evidently I slowed down whenever I was walking. He only slowed down a lot of cigarettes, and evidently made him mad. Does that no sir? And he turned around and sees him. He said, oh my gosh, And so he said, man, I like to dive right there. He said, smoking wasn't going to kill me. He was, but I wasn't going to give him the chance.
Right. Absolutely.
But that
absolutely.
Was yes.
I'm telling you, like everybody in chat, Will, we're friends, and I've met you in person, and Brandy and I will vouch everything this man is telling you. He's one of the most honest people that we know. So
yes.
Yeah. Like,
I appreciate y'all saying that, man. That means more, special respect for my peers, those of y'all who've been in the woods and stuff and seen these kind of things like that. And I really appreciate that. I work hard at it, but because I love it. But then, like I said, I also want to share what I've got, and when you have something there that people say, well, there's a picture, why'd you circle it? I didn't circle that picture for me. I circled it to make it easier for everybody else to be able to focus on, about like those old pictures we used to have when you just had to stare and stare and stare, and finally it was coming to place. And I being a deer hunter all my life, you kind of learn to look for just a piece. You look for a flicker of an ear, you look for a line this way and a set of woods that goes that way. You look for a flicker of a tail. And so you do something like that, and pretty soon you're a whole lot more observant, and you can train your eyes. And that's what I've done. Not that I missed one last year that Daniel had, and we were up there in the mountains of the Ouachitas, and we had a bunch of babies over there to our right. And boy, they were chattering. You've heard that, gibberish, whatever they want to call it, and they're over there chattering. But Daniel had gotten run up the tree by a couple of hogs that morning. So Daniel was really spooked. And I've been run up by hogs before in a tree, but this morning, this was far enough ago, I wasn't quite as upset as what he was. But we knew we had Bigfoot over there. So we're sitting there, and I've got this 45-70 rifle in my hand, in my right-hand side, and I'm looking like this. And I showed y'all the picture, and I'm looking and see. And so Daniel's sitting there just taking pictures. And so anyway, we wait for a minute, and they're still chattering, and they quit chattering. I said, well, did you find anything in these pictures? Girl, thank you for saying that. It says, I've got the experience, fortunate, willing to share. I mean that. I really love doing that, and I love to show. Don't ever think I'm bragging. If y'all think I'm bragging, y'all slap me upside the head, because I'm not.
No, we know you're not.
I just enjoy this, and I'm in the field, maybe 5 days a week, something like that. When Daniel came down from Anchorage, Alaska, and we're sitting there, and so I said, well, Daniel, just anything on them pictures? So he sends me the picture, and sure enough, 40 yards away, just directly up the hill, there's a Bigfoot standing there behind a tree looking at me. I didn't see him, because I'm so keyed up and looking to my right to find these doggone babies over there, and to make sure it's not a hog. Or I've also got a bear up there on this place too. And I'm looking so hard at that, and I never even saw the Bigfoot with him when we turned the window off. So sure enough, I looked at the picture. I said, Daniel, did you see this? He goes, what? And I showed it to him. He goes, I didn't see it either. So he got us good, but they're good at what they do, but they can really hide. And that's really for them. I feel honored that they trusted me that much not to run off or not to come over there, twist my head like one of those little Pez deals,
True.
So
I mean, there is that.
Oh yes, I've been real fortunate this year. Since last year, we have muzzleloader season about the next last weekend in October for deer. And so I had a man called me, and he goes, I heard your podcast, and you were talking about a place called South State Line. If y'all read any of my book there, that's where I grew up on. He said, you talking about the South State Line? It's just right there before Days Creek and everything, and just off the Broad Street. And I said, yeah. And he goes, that's what my wife asked me. I said, oh, why? I said, what? He goes, we've got Bigfoot here. He said, I haven't seen them clearly yet. He said, but they're coming up on our house. Oh, they got a big porch back there, and this thing is going up there, knocking on the side of his house. And one day it actually got onto the porch, ran a few steps, and jumped back off. But he and I went down, me and his brother-in-law, and we went down into the woods trying to find, some of their sign and markings. Well, when we did, like I said, this was October there. Last week in October, sure enough, we found some Bigfoot sign. The tracks we didn't find, but we found the new structures. We found, where they have beat the trail down. A Bigfoot being a soft-footed animal, if you have a deer trail, generally they go right down just to bare earth. Because of those claws that they have, or hooves that they have like that. But a Bigfoot, because their feet are soft, they tend not to go all the way down to bare dirt. So we found this trail, and the limbs were broken off. Some of them broke about 6 feet tall up there. And, we call that a big boy trail because you can get down, squat down, and look, and you can see where everything broken is up in the air like that. So anyway, coincidentally, that night, Bigfoot decided to pay us back for us taking the trip down to the woods, because here comes the Bigfoot around his house. And so he can hear him out there. So he puts a camera out there. And it's been kind of off and on, but sure enough, the other day, he sent me some pictures, and you can see the Bigfoot's eyes glowing out there. And, of course, it scares his wife. And she's actually so scared, he actually came home from work one night. She had her sister come over there. So he actually comes home from work. And so he called me this week. We got a chance to go out there Wednesday. And sure enough, he's got a track out. He finally found a track out there, so he's able to cast the track. We found the trails, some of the new trails that they have made coming in there, and where it appears to be where they're hiding back there whenever they're watching his house. But they're coming along, like I said, knocking on the deal. And he just loves it. His wife doesn't love it so much, but he just loves it. He said, I'm scared. Yeah, I guarantee you're scared. But anybody's not scared, like, I'm not scared of Bigfoot. Hey, they've never seen Bigfoot.
Sure. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've been doing that. Very fortunate to have this young man as my friend. His name's Nick. He's just a real good guy. I've got some other friends from down around a place called Douglasville, Texas, where I saw one of the only two I ever saw out of my UPS truck. And coincidentally, this man who became my friend actually owned the land where I saw the other one down there at Douglasville. And so he got some last year when we had this Valentine's snowstorm. He was down there, and I texted him, and all of a sudden he goes, man, you're not gonna believe who just texted me. He said it's Will, man. And he said, show him your track. So sure enough, they had found two snowy track lines coming across the road and across the field, and they're just like tightrope pattern. Bigfoot feet, people's feet are side to side like this. Bigfoot feet are just like this, one on top of the other, about 3 foot away from each other at least. Well, they had found these tracks like that. And he sent me the video, and man, he's all excited. I said, that's the same place that I saw the Bigfoot when I was on my UPS truck. And he goes, I thought it might be. So we're going to do something here next month. We're going down there. They've been having a lot of Bigfoot sightings they've been having around here are not necessarily in Fouke as such that I'm hearing about, but the Sulphur River runs through there. It also runs through the area that's a little bit west of there into Texas, and most of the Bigfoot sign and the sightings are coming from that part of Texas. Right there. So there's a group of us that go down there, and we're going to do some sitting out in the woods and just, calling, later on, but doing some listening, things like that, and try to take a pic, take some pictures if we can get them, and just have the wit scared out of us, But these guys are real good Bigfoot hunters too. They're on their property, and they know they're there, and awesome. they have friends that that have seen them as well. So looking forward to getting with those guys, and we're going to do that this month. And again, Keith has got his spring. We had to change the date on the spring camp out there. Oh yeah. Oh man, thank you, Sharon. I appreciate that. Keith is a great guy, and he is a super guy. And
very nice guy.
I enjoyed meeting Sharon too. There, we like I said, we're just old country boys. Ham and eggs for breakfast.
That's right.
but we. It was just really, really fun to meet. But he's got this camp out coming up, and it's free. It's there at Smith Park, and like I said, Smith Park, just about everybody that was down there last year. They had a tornado on the first day of the camp out. Man, that night, everybody out there just about had some kind of Bigfoot experience after that weather change like that, almost like it triggered them off there.
Is he doing another one this year?
Do what now?
Is Keith doing another one this year?
Yeah, we'll do two. We'll do one at Halloween where they come down, and of course have kids have a Halloween contest deal and everything else for the costumes. But then we're doing one here about I think it's the 14th and 15th of April. Texas is going to be down there the last week in April with the conference.
Yeah.
But as I said, I'm going to be fishing some bass tournaments, so I know for sure I won't be able to make that. But I'm hoping he and I might get to go out a day or two, before I, have those bass tournaments.
Yeah.
But Keith is doing another camp out, and there's a lot of good Bigfoot researchers there. Some that you've actually heard of, and then some of the best Bigfoot researchers that you've never heard of are some of the people here in the woods that have lived with them. I was talking to Denny Roberts today. Denny owns Monster Mart.
Yep.
Y'all need to have him on your show. I'll ask him if he would be on here.
Absolutely, because we met him also. Yeah, you introduced him to us too.
And so he called me today. We're fixing to do some work, maybe here in about 3 weeks with somebody that's coming down to shoot some kind of film or documentary or something other like that. But Denny's just Nick, that's my buddy Nick right there. He went from a fan to a believer real quick. He did, I will assure you. But boy, he's going to be a good researcher too. He's got that fire under him, that what it takes to become really good. And boy, he's where he lives at. When I first pulled up out there, it's probably 3 miles from where I used to have one of my first encounters as a kid. When y'all heard me tell about Mr. Odysy, who was delivering the fruits and vegetables from his garden. So he lives about 3 miles from there. Very, very, very wild place. Like I said, it's swampy as you can imagine. But he's a real good guy.
Good deal. Send us information about Keith's upcoming event and stuff, and we'll be happy to share it on our Wands and Booze Facebook group and stuff like that.
Man, I would love to, because this is the thing about this. This is a county park. The only place that they charge you for camping is if you can get to hook up, electric vehicle or something like that. But other than that, all your camping is free. It's Sulphur River itself runs about, I'm gonna say 400 yards down there north of where the park is, and it's got some pavilions there, and it's you can just go out there and throw up a tent wherever you want to. And then there's a little lake right beside it, so you can go out there and catch fish. There's places there for your children to come and enjoy. You can enjoy watching your kids have a good time and something like that. And then at night there, we generally on each night we'll have something different. Generally on the Saturday night we have what we call a town hall bonfire. Well, everybody that will sit there that's had any kind of encounters, whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's ghosts or anything else like that, but they'll get together and they'll share their stories. And boy, we've had some great stories from people, like I said, some of the people that you've never heard of. One of my friends that I made his acquaintance 3 years ago, he was on his way home from work one afternoon about 5:30. One of them big suckers ran out of the woods right there. He wasn't even a believer, didn't even think it was humanely possible. This thing runs out there on the edge of the berm, sits there and looks at him and runs back down the hill and kind of stands at the edge of the wood. And he speeds up because he's afraid, and he gets about a mile away and he's like, "Stupid, you had a chance to see a Bigfoot." And he turns around. Well, by that time, the Bigfoot is already, he saw it, but he had a chance to really have a great encounter.
Wow.
And so he came home, and of course, everybody laughed him to scorn, including his little town. And so they contacted me from the paper, and I sent him some pictures, and I told him, I said, yeah, I said, they're real. And so one of the guys who was doing the very most hee-hawing about it, I went into his office one day just quite by accident. And I had on, matter of fact, this same shirt y'all can see right here with Harry there, if they're off of Harry and the Hendersons. And so he goes, "What's with the t-shirt?" And I said, "I'm a Bigfoot researcher." And he just kind of laughed. I said, "I'm actually the Bigfoot researcher that you've been making fun of." And he said, "Oh yeah, you're the one supposedly has the pictures." I said, "No, it's not supposedly." I said, "I've got the pictures." He goes, "Where are they?" I said, "I don't have them with me right now, but I was in my wife's car and I left my phone in the car just for that, just because I have a bad habit of setting it down. Lord knows where it's at, And so I said, "But it's in my wife's car." So he said, "Well, go get it. I want to see it." So I went and got it, followed him into his office, and with cell phone back then, I can't remember what I had. I think I had a Galaxy, something like that. But anyway, I got a better one now. But anyway, it was still pretty good. I went in there, I said, "I'm going to turn off the lights and show it to you." I showed it to him. Of course, then the phone just tends to bring out the color and everything else like that. And boy, after he saw about 10 to 12 pictures, he just started shaking his head. And he goes, I've got to change the way I look at things. I said, you better. I said, because if you've been in the woods, I said, whether you've seen one or not, one of them has seen you. And especially where he lives, it's the same way. It's right there on the border of Arkansas and Louisiana, down around a place called Lake Erling. And the man's name was Walter McClellan, just as honest as he can be, a very fine man, fine wife, you know. And then he came to the Keith camp out and told that story around the bonfire there. Man, everybody was just glued to it. And then I have another man here in Texarkana, a friend of mine that my wife actually met him while she was out there mall walking. And he had a family, I think he had 8 of them out there. And one of them was a 10-footer, big 10-foot male. One of them was 8-foot female. He had some babies. And so he told my wife the story and gave me his phone number. We got to talk, and he would go down to the bakery thrift store and get all the Hostess cupcakes and the Twinkies and all that stuff that they were fixing to throw away. And he would take them out there and he would dump them out there on his back lawn or his back woods there. And the Bigfoot would come up and eat all this thing that he brought out there. Well, there was one there. There was a beagle out there, and this Bigfoot evidently had a special relationship with this beagle. He didn't kill him like what happens with a lot of dogs. But he said this Bigfoot was running. He said you could hear this beagle behind him. And he said, so he's watching, all of a sudden the beagle, the Bigfoot kind of steps into the woods. And so the beagle's still running. But when the beagle's still running, the Bigfoot jumps out of the woods so the dog just turns a somersault, you know. And he said, you can see the thing laughing, like we were talking about them being our entertainment. And so he said, never offered to hurt the dog. He said, I never felt, thank you, it's okay, I appreciate that, man. And so he said, I never was afraid. I said, you never were afraid? He goes, I was never afraid. He said, it was almost like they knew me, you know, and I believe that because this man is very, very intelligent man, has a very high profile job that takes a lot of mental acuity. He's certainly got it. So anyway, this guy right here, that when you get to this camp out there, the people that you get to meet, you can never tell when you're going to hear somebody tell that one story that's going to have that one clue that's going to help you get your first or your next Bigfoot sighting. Sure. And most of those people being around Keith, you can't not have a good time around Keith. He's a lot of fun, but he's not going to let you clam up and be the one that's got the $1 million picture. And, you know, that's just not the way it goes in there. And these people share the things that have happened to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. I have one kid there, and people he was talking about seeing a Bigfoot little town called Atlanta, Texas. That used to be part of my UPS route. There's a place called Atlanta State Park, right there on the banks of Wright-Patman, where coincidentally most of the Bigfoot sightings have been happening here lately that I've been telling y'all about. And so this little boy's down there, and I knew some of the people down there. And so I knew one man down there, he actually got a picture of one. Looks more like a skunk ape than it does a Bigfoot, but went down there. And so I went down there I'd heard of somebody else having another sighting. And so the ranger down there was a friend of mine. And so anyway, I went down there and he goes, what are you doing? And I said, well, so I'm going in here. I said, I've heard you know, I do Bigfoot. I said, I heard y'all had some Bigfoot encounters. You're going to go look at it. Well, he let me come on in, you know. And so sure enough, I found a great tree structure. And it wasn't but about 50 yards just inside the wood line from where the main camping area is. So these things want to keep their eye on you. They don't want to avoid humans like everybody thinks, you know.
Right.
But sure enough, I find it and I leave. And he goes, man, he said, you find anything? I said, yes. So I found a great Bigfoot tree structure. It's probably 9 foot tall. I mean, it's so intricately put together like these here, you know, it's and it would have taken 3 tornadoes spinning in opposite directions to put this together the way it was. And he goes, well, man, I'd like to see that. So I took him down there and showed it to him like a knucklehead. And so I come back the next day with my fishing buddy, and he was wanting to see it. So we drove that, and it's 52 miles from here to where that camp. I went down there to show him, and they had torn that structure down. And there wasn't even a twig left of what was left on that structure. Boy, I was mad, but then, you know, I think it's you know, I got to do an interview this last year with a man named H.L. Phillips. He was the deputy during the time of the Fouke Monster, which was back in 1971, 72. He was also the sheriff. And I got to interview him. Thank goodness I had an inroads to getting to interview him. My father-in-law, he graduated from the same little town in Arkansas, Saratoga. So I got to go interview him, and what was supposed to be a 1-hour interview turned out to about 3.5 hours. Matter of fact, I actually ran out of battery on my camera interviewing him. But one of the things I asked him was, he's just class all the way around. I said, well, tell me something. Is there an unwritten rule that says if you're a law enforcement officer and you get a Bigfoot report, you automatically have to dismiss it or say it's not true? He goes, it may be somewhere. He said, but that's not the way it is in Miller County. He said, every account that we got where somebody had seen these creatures, he said, we went down there, and he said, we sent a deputy and sometimes two until we had some kind of evidence, some kind of proof, or whether we had actually debunked it, where, people do like to hoax things every now and then. And sometimes they imbibe a little bit too much, but like some of the people he told me about there who never even knew there was such thing as a Fouke Monster.
Right.
Like, two little girls riding their bicycle. And so all of a sudden, one little girl, her little sister's behind her. Then she hears her crying. She turns around and looks, said, what's wrong? Did you wreck your bike? She's like, no. She said, did you not see that big monster that ran between you and I? So these people, I think, were from Michigan, I believe he said. I'll have to go back and listen to the story. But they never even knew there was a such thing as a Fouke Monster. And so the stories he was telling me was from people. These were not the public stories that we all heard there that they put on. These were people who they didn't know. Had never even known that there was a creature like that. And the thing is, the truth about Bigfoot that I have seen, maybe there's something out there I've missed, but I've done a lot of research on when the first few Bigfoot sightings were, where Bigfoot started. Folks, it didn't start in California. It started in Middle America. I think 1721, Natchez, Mississippi. There's a story in there. You can look it up on Google or whatever, and it's called Charlevoix Bigfoot, and it'll come up there. And this was when Mississippi was still part of the Louisiana Purchase. And so they had a Bigfoot there. It wasn't just American Indians that were seeing this, but there was other people were seeing it, and they actually documented. And then I think it was 1797. There was one in South Carolina around Sumter, right there around the Sumter River. And then 1829, Milledgeville, Georgia. And then 1834 here in good old Arkansas, 35 miles from where my house is right now, before the Civil War, before Arkansas ever became a state. And there was a creature up there called the Arkansas Wild Man in a little town called Paraclifta. And so now I think there's only like one or two bricks left of what was Paraclifta. But anyway, so you've got those, and then the Middle America, and then California. Then you started getting in there, maybe about the 1950s, early 1950s, it started showing out. And not that they haven't always been there, as far as this is something that's just been documented, but there are more Bigfoot in Middle America. Look at like what we have here with our friend Tex, man. They go down there researching with what y'all have here in LBL. LBL scares me to death.
Missouri has a sighting back in the 1800s, and they called him the Missouri Blue Man.
Oh yeah, Blue Saul there. Yeah,
down in southern Missouri, more closer to Brandy's area.
Yep. Then of course you've got the Ozark Howler. They don't know if it's Bigfoot or if it's a cat or whatever it is, but old Blue Saul. Yeah, and so he was actually a Bigfoot researcher, and that's what they call the Blue Man of Missouri. I've actually had a guy call me one time from Missouri, and or on Facebook there, and he was fishing up there on Table Rock Lake, and was back in one of these pockets back there, and said a Bigfoot actually stood up and looked at him and threw a rock at him. And man, if I could have got to Missouri in about 30 minutes, I'd have done it because I couldn't. But anyway, I listened to his story. It was really, really interesting. There's another one that was seen about 3 years ago. As I told you, I like to bass fish. Well, it appeared in Bassmaster magazine, where another man had a sighting on one of those Missouri lakes up there. Yeah. And so they actually printed it. And then years and years ago, back in the Atchafalaya Basin in Louisiana, there was a sighting there that Bassmaster magazine documented, where they could see the Bigfoot going across the back of a little creek back there in the back. So, again, Middle America, not that I've got a friend in Oregon that he cuts wood. He has family of three that sits there and watches him cut wood. I've got another friend there in Washington. He came in, and whenever he was in the service, he went to Fort Lewis. First thing they did was give him a book, What to Do in Case of a Sasquatch Encounter.
Wow.
I mean, that tells you,
It tells you.
Yeah. If the government won't deny it to us, they're not going to deny it to their own people. Yeah. So, but anyway, that story there. So you have them up there again. Alaska. Actually, I think I told you about the one lady there I met in Alaska. And she told me the story of the things that happened to her as a little girl. So they're there. But again, Middle America is where there is a lot. And these regular old guys, like the group y'all run with, super individuals. All of them got Bigfoot encounters, man, that will just, make your hair stand up,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, they're telling the truth because their character.
Yeah. Have you ever listened to Martin Grove's story?
Oh, yes, man. Martin, man, unreal, Yeah. Martin, after I got to meet Martin, man, I mean, he wouldn't tell you life he had to about that. You see the tears form in Martin's eyes when he tells his story.
Yeah.
You see his blood pressure elevate. The same with Barton Nunnelly there.
Bart is too.
Barton's group like that. The people that I learn here whenever I've interviewed now probably 200 or more than 200 people. And most of the people you can tell, because when they're telling their story, their blood pressure goes up. Sometimes you can see their heart. Oh yeah. Beating in his vein right here. You can see they get where they're short of breath, and what they're telling you is true, because man, it affected their life. There's such thing called buck fever. That's what us deer hunters get. Even when a doe walks out, man, we can hardly breathe and everything. It's actually truly buck fever has caused people to have a heart attack. Wow. And that's over seeing a deer. Right. You expect to encounter. Now, imagine seeing a Bigfoot, something that most of the time you don't believe they're real. And when you do, and see what that doesn't do to change your life, change the way your health habits are and everything. When I was in Little Rock, Arkansas, maybe y'all have heard me tell this story. I was having an operation done on my hand. And so I went in and they went to do my blood pressure. And the lady looked at my chart. She goes, Texarkana. Oh, how far is that from Fouke, Arkansas? I said, it's about 20 miles. And she goes, you ever seen the creature? And I said, yes, I have. And so my wife is right in the same room there with me. And so like I said, I've got the blood pressure cuff right here still on my arm. She's pumping me up and all that junk. She said, well, tell me about it. I started out at like 137/85. Well, the more I talk about it, my blood pressure goes up to 204/96. And they call stroke alert because they think I'm fixing to have a stroke. Wow. And she goes, nurse, my wife's a nurse also. She's a registered nurse. They kind of locked eyes and she did like that right there. And she goes, he's not having a stroke. Said, this is what happens to him every time he relives the story that happened to him there around Sulphur River. And so pretty soon it got down like 167/80. Then they still made me take a time out. And finally, after about another 30 minutes, they checked again. I was able to have my procedure done. My book here is listed up here. Thank you so much for doing that. Guys, I wrote a book. It's called Searching for the Unfindable, My Quest for the Arkansas Bigfoot. I didn't want to say Quest for the Fouke Monster because it's everything about, but it's the Arkansas Bigfoot because I learned that Arkansas is full of Bigfoot. Arkansas is full of Bigfoot. And so I wrote this book. It's 449 pages. I've got color pictures in there. I go take from 1977 all the way to, I guess, last year. Every time I go to finish the book, somebody called and I had to change the ending. So it took me so long to get it, printed up. But to have that book right there, and very, very proud. It's a labor of love for me. At least it's out there,
It's a great book. BMR said, great book. I have a signed copy. Well, I have a signed copy too.
So do I.
Hey, man. And it tells you what all has gone on in my life. And it's not, like I said, it's not because I'm a great researcher. I'm very fortunate. I consider myself fortunate. Number one, because I walked away from all these Bigfoot encounters. But number two, just to have the sightings. But then I'm in the woods. And if you ever, when y'all seen the places I've researched down here, it's incredible, And there's like vines that hang down like a witch's fingers fixing to pluck you out of your, it's just pretty scary. Yeah. And
it truly is. It truly is. Well, you have a lot of questions.
All right, let's hear.
Yeah, but let's try to get through as many as we can in just a few minutes.
Great. So sorry I don't have chat here, folks. I want to try.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, you're fine.
Corey Cole asked, "Has anyone heard the sound of heavy machinery?"
I talked to a man, Corey, there about 6 months ago, and he had lived in Fouke and he had moved off. But that's what he said. That he said it sounded almost like a skidder from a logging company. But the first day that me and my wife went down to this place called Thornton's Well, we got out there and it was raining. I got out to use the restroom and all of a sudden this thing was screaming. Well, whenever he quit, then the skidder came back down there to cut the woods. Every time this skidder would rev up, like that with the engine, this Bigfoot would scream. And this went on for about 40 to 45 minutes. So it definitely has that same kind of effect on those. So they do mimic. They're very, very good at their mimicry. They can do they can whistle, they can do but they do mimic the sound of heavy machinery.
Brandy and I, we got an EVP. I don't know necessarily that you can say it's machinery, but we were at the LBL and we were at one of the cemeteries there, and we have an EVP of a door. Cool. Of a door, like opening and closing, and it's broad daylight in the middle of the LBL. There's no doors around. There's no, and it sounds more like a house door. It's not a car door sound. It's pretty interesting, isn't it, Brandy? So,
yeah, sounds like a house. Yeah, somebody opening and closing a door in a house.
Yeah, we actually that night we got it. We had Martin Groves listen to it, and he said it sounded similar to what he heard.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all got to let me listen to that. If it was me,
Absolutely.
The only door you would have heard would have been the door of my truck as it slammed and I ran off out of the window as quick as I could. But I love that. Y'all got to let me hear that because
we will. We'll send it to you. Yeah, for sure. Missouri Broad asked, "Does William have a YouTube channel?"
I don't, folks, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm truly computer illiterate. I'm old. I had a car accident back in 2013, and it gave me a concussion, and it did some damage to my brain. I used to have a very, very good functional brain, and then I could remember basically the day I was born, just about it, But after I had that right there, and my head actually busted the window. And then when my head busted the window, then the grill came and hit me in the head like that right there. So it gave me a very severe concussion.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't have a YouTube channel because I'm not really computer literate. My wife, thank goodness for her, again, she does a lot of my computer work, and she taught me how to get on y'all's show today. As a matter of fact, we'll be out there in La La Land. But I do when I do get on YouTube, I do answer Facebook chat sometimes when people contact me. I try my best to answer everybody if I can. Yeah. But I don't. But I have been on several podcasts. Like I said, I was on been on the movie Fouke Monster. I was on there. Lyle and I were talking there, and then about this year on These Woods Are Haunted, and then so there's I've been on several things, but I enjoy sharing just because of that, just because of telling you my stories here, because I'm fortunate to have that, and I do want people to know that they're real, because when you see one as a surprise, I didn't believe in 1977 until the very second I saw it, and man, it upset my apple cart.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, Catherine Gay asked, she says, "Do you think we have Bigfoot here in Northwest Arkansas where she's at?" Gary says no.
I'm telling you, you got Bigfoot up there. One of my friends, Mary Boland, went up there to one of the lakes up there that y'all have. I can't remember which one it was she had, but she went up there. Mary's brave as anything, man. And she went up there by herself, stayed there with her dogs, and I think she had done some calling or done something to try to attract them. Sure enough, that night, when it is, one thing comes there and starts banging on the side of her cabin. I have another lady there. Her name slips my memory right now, but anyway, she's got her property as well. So they're there. Arkansas, I'll give you an example. Highway 71 goes right up the western corridor of Arkansas, all the way from Louisiana, all the way up into Missouri right there. I did a study of all the reports I have through there. There is a Bigfoot encounter, and that's northwest Arkansas right there that it goes through there, through Porch and Fayetteville. There is a Bigfoot encounter reported every 8.3 miles, and that's the ones I know of. Now that's Highway 71, very, very traveled. So that kind of tells you, I'm sure it's different as far as the numbers, but they're there.
Right.
Morgan asks, "Do you think Bigfoot knows when hunting season is over, and are they more active?"
Yeah, I do think they know when hunting season is over, because right when hunting season starts down here, when these guys down here, they come bringing their tractors and their four-wheelers and everything, they go down and they generally plant food plots and things like that. Man, you'll see more trees that are broken over to block where they're going into, to block their trails and stuff like that. And then after a while, they just quit. And then, then everybody goes back through there. Then once the season is over, everything goes back to normal. So I do believe that they know when hunting season is over, and they do get more active. One thing about the hunting season, because these people are some of them are not ethical hunters, and some of them just bad luck, but they just shoot at what they can see. They wound a deer runs off. Bigfoot is the janitor of the forest, man. He's got food right there. So
Absolutely.
I talked to a man 2 days ago who I'd already talked to his partner, but I didn't know it was his partner, but he actually shot one. And when he was going to retrieve him, Bigfoot ran out and got his deer. This he hollers at his buddy. They go up there, but they follow it for a while until the Bigfoot gets tired of it. Then the Bigfoot's like, and he's like, oh crap. That on this hunter's orange vest, and the hunter's orange hat. He said, man, if he's looking at me because it's hunter's orange vest, it's coming off. And he took it off and took off running back to deer camp. So, the same Fouke Monsters when it first, I think it's another generation, Mickey, That's the same Fouke Monster as when it first appeared. But I'll tell you what, I did a lot of study on the lifespans of apes there. The ape that played Cheetah on Tarzan lived to be 80 years old. And the first place I had my very first encounter, there's about 6 or 7 encounters down there. And one of them was a guy I go to church with, him and his grandpa, who his grandpa's a Church of Christ preacher. And so from where this is and these other encounters, and I figured about the time that I wrote my book, it may be this creature down there could have been 60, 65 years old. I think it's a different generation, but there's a whole other generation there. I have seen Fouke Monster or his progeny or progeny, I think it's whatever the word is. There's two for me, but about 7 different times, and several of them, like I said, are generally the mothers down here like healthy deer. They tend to have twins, and so you'll see I saw 3 2 years ago on May the 25th down there at Mercer Bio running across a clear cut right there, and there was 3. Wow. They're all pretty good size. So I think it is. I think it is. It may still be alive, but there's a whole nother generation. There's a breeding population of Bigfoot everywhere. There's Bigfoot. Absolutely.
And last question here, Will, have you seen Bigfoots in any family groups tripping up on US?
Yeah, tripping up. I'm sure I have, because like I said, I saw the mother with twice. I've seen a mama with 2 babies. I didn't get to see the male there, but me and my son had a group down here at Smith Park, the place where we're going to have the camp out. We had a dad and a mom, and the mom was real heavy. You could see her track, but then all of a sudden her track became lighter and there was a baby track beside it. So we know that was probably a family group. But again, where I told y'all, they're right there at the foothills of the Ozarks. Me and Stephen are going up there, and it's in I think it's March the 25th. Again, talking about the pictures, and I get up there in Stephen's Lake, and the wind is really blowing. And so I was driving down the road trying to see if there was footprints in one of these ditches where they generally cross. Well, sure enough, whenever I do, I'm just tootling along there like grandpa. And so whenever I got out there, I was going to see if maybe there was footprints there. Well, when I got out to where there's a berm to look over down the hill, there's 2 7-footers walking down the side of the clear cut there. And I'm sitting there watching them, and because I didn't shut my door and because I wasn't speeding or they didn't get to see the dust, they just continued doing what they're doing. So I watched these guys for about 5 to 7 minutes, something another like that right there. Yeah. Well, then when Stephen gets there, he has a big old dually, makes the noise. They go back into the woods right there. So he and I go and we set the cameras back out. And before we ever get out of the woods, one of my cameras was a one that sends a signal to your cell phone. And my signal starts going off, and I look, and there's one Bigfoot over there. It looks to be about a 5 or 6 footer on the ground. He's got a Snickers bar. We bait him up with Snickers bars. I think everybody knows that by now. M&M Mars, send me some free Snickers bars, because I'm I'm up in the price of stock, because Bigfoot will eat a Snickers bar before this fat boy here will. I promise you. But so anyway, there's another Bigfoot over there on the ground eating a Snickers bar, looking at my camera. The 2 brothers are back out into the woods behind us, and then there's 4 more out there in the woods. So, and that is either a troop with a family group, or else it is a troop who has adopted others into the family. Again, the ones I told y'all, where there's 5 over there, there's 2 of them in the tree and 3 of them down there around the base. And it's either a family group or else it's just their troop that they tend to. And boy, they're protective over their troop. Years ago, when you heard the guy talk about he killed a Bigfoot there in Georgia, and they could put it in the refrigerator and all that junk like that right there. Oh yeah, we knew, because here they come. There's another Bigfoot following us. Buddy, you try that and see what happens. You're not going to be telling that. Yeah, they're not going to be telling that story, because that Bigfoot's going to kill you. I had some friends who killed one in Louisiana, and they said, buddy, they said that the other one came out of the woods there, and 2 of them came out and drug it back off to the woods, but they said those things haunted around their farm there for a long, long time for whatever reason they shot it for. So there he is. There's very, very, the Bigfoot are very, very real. They're territorial. As a rule, I don't think most of them are going to hurt you, but they are very possessive. What is theirs is theirs, and don't mess with it. I took a stick one time out of one of their tree structures I found. That thing followed me 200 yards into the woods, scared me to death. Finally, I went back, stuck into the tree structure, got in my truck, and left. So funny creatures, but again, true story there. And it's one of the things that happens to you that you're not going to experience unless you're out in the woods like that, So
yeah.
So I didn't mean to get me more questions there. I didn't mean to dominate that, but just
no, you're good. And actually, we asked them all, and we're at a little past the hour-and-a-half mark. We appreciate you, Will.
You did good.
I do, y'all too. Thank y'all, folks. Thank y'all those who are watching this show, you've got anything you could do, but instead you're listening to me. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
But do know I'm telling you the truth.
Absolutely.
See,
Absolutely.
where I live on the Massachusetts border, and somebody just seen 2 weeks ago. This is a story on Bear Mountain. Was on last Friday night. Believe it, because my man just cut my yard for 30-something years. Mexican man came to the United States, got his card and everything, began to work over here. And so I was selling my truck. He goes, "Why are you selling your truck?" I said, "Well, as you know, I'm in the woods every now and then. There's some very dangerous creatures there." He goes, "Oh, you talk about that big gorilla?" And I said, "Yeah, how did you know?" He goes, "He used to come to my house and knock on the window to my little boy to come," and said he was waving towards him to come towards the window. I mean, gosh, and I would have never believed that, except that I know this guy. I mean, for 30 years, he's been in my employ. Good guy, honest guy. And he also said, and this was in Fouke, where the guy moved up. He had actually grown up in Fouke. He came through Louisiana and then stopped there in Fouke. And so, anyway, very, very strange story. But man, I know he's telling the truth, because he's told me this. He just told me that first time 2 years ago. And every time he's told me that since, he's told me the same way every time, you know. So,
Absolutely.
So again, folks, man, I appreciate being with you guys. Again, thank you all for listening to me.
Well, you're welcome back here anytime, Will. Anytime you want to come on, you got new information, or people have been asking too, where can they see your pictures? Do you have any of them?
I tell you what, generally, because like I said, I'm so much computer illiterate, but if you'll call me there or on Facebook there and send me your cell phone, I'll send you over the phone. They come out clear that way.
You know what? Why don't you send them to me, and I can post them on the Blondes and Booze Facebook group, and people can go to our group and they can see your pictures.
Yeah, I'll do that, because
we can
try
do
not
that.
to put them out there. I try not to put out too many any blob squatches, actually, unless the story behind it is so good that it's an interesting story. But if what I put out there, you're going to see a face, you're going to see hands, you're going to see a baby, you're going to see something like that. You know, not all of them are clear. It's not like taking a portrait up there, you know, at the studio on that right there. But like I said, game camera photography. I hide my cameras. When they walk by and it gets their picture, they get mad most of the time.
If you wouldn't mind, send that Gugwé picture, because that one just blows me away.
Oh, it does. And when you see the two stances that he's in, the first one whenever he's sitting there looking, and the second one he's looked over his shoulder, man, you talk about, man, right now even I've got daggum chill bumps on my back, look like mosquito bites just from that same situation. Yeah. So I'll do that. I'll send it there, and maybe y'all can check it. Then I've got to go to a pickleball tournament tomorrow, but I will try to do that over this weekend there.
Sounds great. And I'll get them posted.
All right. Y'all will see my picture in the obituary column if I don't make that pickleball.
Yeah, that's right. I think she could take you.
She can. Now she's
I agree with Brandy.
Guys, thank y'all again. Thank you, folks, everybody that listened to us. Again, thank you to our first responders and to our veterans, man. And
absolutely. Thank you very much. And everybody, I know Paranormal Roundtable, they're getting ready to go live. So everybody tune in over there. And we appreciate everybody for coming in and listening to us and listening to Will. And real quick, I just want to thank everybody. War Criminal, Justin Boyd,
Criminal, yes, sir.
Catherine Gay, Gary Spikes Sr.,
Hello, Gary Spikes,
Shade Viking, and Suji. Thank you very much to each and every one of you guys. You guys are all great, and we definitely love and appreciate everybody for sure. So anyway, until tomorrow, or no, not tomorrow. We don't come back until next Thursday.
Till next Thursday?
Wow, what a day. Okay.
Well, the Blondes and Booze is not on until next Thursday, but you'll see us before then.
Through the week.
Thank you.
Yeah, you'll see us through the week.
You know, here's a good Bigfoot joke. They says, what's the difference between a smart blonde and a Bigfoot? They say they've actually had sightings of a Bigfoot. I say that just to mess with y'all. You know, I'm kidding. Thank y'all for having me on here. And you know,
that's awesome.
And you know, I heard that the other day. I like to fell out. You know,
that's perfect. Perfect. We love it.
Aimed at me. I'll take that kind of joke anytime. But guys, thank you for having me on here. And
absolutely.
Next time you need a filler or something like that, give me a buzz. I'll see what we can get to work in there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll see everybody later.
Thank y'all. Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Y'all too.
Good night.
Bye-bye.